The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
The bull ring of Summit Point has been left behind, and while Silverstone is a much longer, wider circuit, don't count on it being easy for our drivers. Lacking many good opportunities to pass, the use of traffic might just be the way to sneak past your competitor. However, anytime you throw multiple classes on track, the interclass traffic becomes a double-edged sword, ready to cut against you as easily as it cuts for you. So I suppose it's live by the sword, die by the sword, as we get ready to watch round 2 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Nick Schmeg. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Nick, from West Virginia to England, there's not many more drastic switches than that. So why don't you reorient us by telling us about Silverstone?
No problem, Joe. If the curbs here at Silverstone could talk, they'd have days upon days of never-ending history lessons that I, for one, would love to be able to hear. In the modern era of Formula One, only 2 Grand Prix have been on the calendar for every single season. Hosting the British Grand Prix, Silverstone is one of them. The former World War II airbase originally was comprised of multiple runways linked together. There is still some resemblance of that today, with little elevation change as well as some tricky technical sections in the track. iRacing's current build of Silverstone is the 17-turn, 5.14 kilometer or 3.1 mile GP circuit. And to get a better idea of what the drivers are up against today, let's send you down to the track for the GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we're in the GSRC Audi, so let's do a lap around Silverstone. Coming down to Cops, you might see some pass attempts into here, but it'll take a really good run off the previous corner to set it up. This turn is deceptive in that you can get back to the power sooner than you would expect. From out of there, bring it across the track, making sure to be wary of any cars exiting pit lane. Then line it up and throw out the anchors as you turn into the Beckett sequence. The best way to take these S's is to give yourself the straightest shot possible out of the final right-hander. The sooner you get on the gas, the more top speed you'll achieve down the hanger straight. And that's going to be very important since the braking in a stow is likely to be one of the most popular passing spots. Expect a bit of a draft to come into effect as you fly through here, and drivers will probably be picking their lines early if they notice someone gaining. But even if you defend from the inside, occasionally drivers will hold around the outside of stow. That's because it gives themselves the inside line into Vale. Even though it's a short run into the chicane, it takes heavy braking to woe it up into this corner, and so passes will take place from time to time. Once you come into club, you'll see drivers let it drift wide a bit so that they can square off the second apex. This is another spot where it'll be critical to get yourself a nice run, either for defense or attack. Once again, bring it across the track and then throw out the anchors for Abby. The first half of the chicane is relatively tight, but the second half opens up a lot. I found the car likes to get a little bit loose if you keep your foot to the floor out of there. Then you'll need a stab of the brakes and a bridge where you might see a variety of lines taken. The switchback makes it a compromise in a priory, and some drivers prefer to swing it wide while others come in shallow. Give it another blip before you hit the binders yet again for Brooklands. This is another one of the slowest corners of the track and leads directly into Luffield. The hairpin requires a lot of patience while you wait to put the power.
There you see a lap around Silverstone, and we're going to have a few of them here today under these beautiful yellow skies. Now, let's take a look at the championship since we've got one round under our belt, and of course, Summit, as usual, throws up its typical craziness. Artu Yamaki was the one able to come away with the win, with Fabian Gerber finishing second, and Justin Albrecht rounding out the podium. Now, you might notice Villi Rolla. You might be thinking, well, isn't he usually in the Audis? Well, yeah, he is, but he seems to have switched over to the Nissans. So we'll see how he fares in the much faster cars. Clayton McLeod rounding out our top five. Apologies about the glitch that we had with the lap guide there. We'll get that sorted out a little bit later. Looking at the GTP lights, of course, we've got only 3 cars who have managed to compete so far of those who've signed up for the Amateur Championship here in the prototypes. Krejcik, Sakura, and Robanek are the only 3. Guldager and Kopak have yet to start a race this season. We'll see if either of them decide to show up today. We also have the 2 different Audi classes to go through. Nick, what do the points look like there?
Yeah, still early in the season, but never too soon to start looking at points here. We have the GTO standings with Phil Lake, the United Kingdom driver, at the top of that, just barely holding off right now. Riley Thompson, Milan Arnowski, 4 points back. The Nicholas Makanos, 8 points back. Jamie Hall, 9 points back. Of course, everything going to be very tight here towards the beginning of the year. And then the amateur category, we have the GTUs as well for these Audi drivers. And as you see that come up on screen here, Hideki Koivisto with 12 points, just holding off Matthew Jete. Sergei Serbin, the Central Eastern Europe driver, 3 points back, and still just a handful of points back, 5 points. Dave Peterson and Michael Haynes rounding out the top 5 in that category.
Thank you for that, Nick. We've got the race details as well, in case anybody's new here to Kamel GT. As we mentioned, we've only had 1 round so far. This is round 2, naturally. And this is a 40-minute race, so this is their sprint format that they run for most of the season, which means there are no scheduled pit stops in these cars. There you see the point scoring going from 1st down to 20th, 25 points for a win, and that goes for each class that they score on their own. With that, if you enjoy this sort of vintage racing, obviously we have a lot of it on the GSRC, but there's also plenty here on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe if you can so that you can catch all the action here on IESN. Watching Justin Albrecht work his way around. So far, most drivers seem to have gotten at least 1 lap in. I suspect many of the GTP cars are just finishing their 2nd lap now. Justin Albrecht is our pole sitter, who we were watching there, and he goes a little bit faster by about 2/10 that time by. Let's see if anybody has the means to try and topple him. Looking through, I see Tobias Gerber was not able to get by. Fabian Gerber as well, who's usually very fast. Antti Lepisto, I think, has yet to finish his 2nd lap. This is Dave Walsh, currently sitting 3rd. And he does improve by about 1/10, but does not improve his position on the grid. So as Antti Lepisto now comes into the last part of the course, through the technical sections of Priory, into Brooklands, through Luffield, and then finally Woodcote left to go. Let's see what he's got underneath him. The Finnish driver, known to typically be one of the top runners and sitting in 8th, will certainly not sit well with him. Let's see what he's got. He's about 4/10 faster, and that puts him on the front row. Nice last gasp effort by the Finn.
That is a good lap from Justin Albrecht up there. Still 2/10 faster than Lepisto there. It's going to be very hard for anyone there to topple that.
Absolutely. We've now switched over to the Audis. Jamie Hall currently working his way through the Abbey chicane, as he currently is sitting in 4th place. Almost all of his other competitors here in the Audi class of the GTOs have already finished their 2nd lap. Excuse me, that was the Vale chicane that he was at before. This is the Abbey chicane he is at now. Coming into bridge, one of the many dirty torque cars. This team having branched out not just from Kamel GT, but also now into the Lotus 49. We saw Rob Olenek run a fantastic race up to 2nd place over at Daytona in the Lotus 49 earlier this morning. So I'm sure Jamie Hall would like to emulate him. Let's see what he can do with 4th currently. As he crosses the line, he does not improve his time, so that'll be as high up as he will start this race. I believe only a couple other cars are still left out on track.
Yeah, Joe, you were saying that we have a lot of drivers that are branching out in different series. It is true to see a lot of these drivers going through here. I've seen them in all sorts of different series. We've seen them in the Formula Series. We cover the Open Wheeled Series as well. So many cars that drive so differently. I've even seen a couple of these names pop up in some oval racing sessions. So these guys really getting a whole different taste of race cars that are all compiled into one here. These cars they're driving today, the Audi and the Nissan, unlike anything else we've got on iRacing. It's very interesting to see the competition ramp up here with that.
Absolutely. And I think that's telling that so many of the drivers from Kamel have jumped over to other disciplines and how open they are. But time to open up the box set is our qualifying order. On the front row, it'll be Justin Albrecht on the pole with Antti Lepisto starting 2nd. Arto Iamaki will be P3. Then it's Dave Walsh starting in 4th, followed by Timu Toika in P5. Vili Rolla flanks him in 6. Row 4 has Tobias Gerber and Fabian Gerber, both in it in 7th and 8th. Rob Olenek starts from 9th with Fabian Jungluth in P10. Carl Kask, that's not a name that I'm sure that I think we've seen here. At least I haven't seen here before. He's followed by Martin Krejcik in 12th with Stephen Warkup in 13th. Clayton McLeod will start in the 14th position with Tommy Toe. In 15th, Radek Sikorda is going to start this race P16. Bronislav Robanek, who's coming over from the Audis to the Nissans, will start 17th. And then Christine O'Reilly will start 18th. 2 cars did not get a qualifying time in the Nissans. That's Carlos Fonseca and Ryan Lang.
Over in the Audis, Joni Hagner has a half-second gap over Riley Thompson from qualifying. They are going to start on the front row. Phil Lake, Jamie Hall, Andrea Albertinelli, very quick behind them as well. Those are going to be the top 25 overall. Then 6th place in the Audis is going to be Milan Arnozzi. Dennis Neidhart going to take 7th. Stefan Schlacker is going to be 28th overall. Nicholas McConnell and Tanner McCulloch going to round out the top 30. Behind them, Dave Peterson, Manak Stephanie, Lucas Fort. They are going to be 31st, 32nd, and 33rd. Just behind them, still all these times really tight together. Very competitive qualifying. Lori Minotarvara, Matthew Jette, Hideki Koivisto, Donald Peak, and Javier Alvarez Lago. They were the only ones to set a qualifying lap. And then we have Paul Ferrer, Michael Haynes, and Laurent Perez not setting qualifying times. They will round out the 41 car field we have today at Silverstone.
You can see it is a rolling start with the roof pace car getting ready to lead them around. It was 55 cars last week at Summit Point around a much shorter, much narrower track. But even still, I have to imagine it's going to be difficult to navigate out there today. So if you were out there in one of these cars, where would you want to try and have passes happen between the 2 different classes, Nick?
Well, you're going to have to look where it's easy. Cops and Stowe are going to be probably the easiest parts. Places like Maggots and Beckett's, and then that whole section from Bridge down through Priory and Brooklands and Luffield, they're going to be, I mean, they're a handful when you have just one class of car on track, but today we've got two, and they're very different. 14, 15-second difference in the lap times. Gonna have to keep it real clean and real steady through there.
Certainly will, as you see them working their way through the Maggots-Beckett's sequence now. Added here in the early 90s, when it used to be just a little kink heading down to a 90-degree right-hander, and then another little kink here onto the Hanger Straight. One of the fastest portions of this track leading down to Stowe. Now, as we mentioned, a championship is on the line. Fabian Gerber won it last season, and with him starting a little bit farther down, which surprises me. Sometimes these two-lap qualifyings can throw up some interesting results here, Nick, but I wonder if he can climb up that far, especially with how tough it is to pass at this track. Do you think the traffic will be wild enough that he'll be able to find his way up to the front from there?
It'll certainly be wild enough. My only concern for him is look at the list of names he has ahead of him. Just ahead of him, Tobias Gerber, Ville Ruola, who we saw racing the Audis a lot, Timu Toika, Ardo Iamaki, Antti Lepisto, Justin Albrecht, all of those huge names in the Nissan category. He's got a lot of work to do starting in 8th place.
Well, we'll see if he can handle it. Of course, down in the Audis as well. So look at the big names down there up at the top of the field. Hagner, Thompson, Lake, Hall. And Arnozzi is continuing this form. Arnozzi has actually jumped up from, I'm sure our viewers noticed, he's jumped up from the GTU to the GTO. And you know what? I honestly think he deserves it. This number 21 car has proven himself this season. And I feel like this is one of the feel-good stories of the past season or so here in Campbell.
Yeah, a lot of big names up there. And a lot of these names, we were talking about these drivers that are in multiple different series. A lot of those drivers racing in the Audis. It's very interesting to see them combine all different skill sets and then race each other today on a neutral playing field.
All right, last technical section of the track. Through Brooklands they go. It's going to be Justin Albrecht leading the field. He doesn't get wins quite as often, but he is fast. It's a known factor about him. The question is, can he stay fast all the way to the checkered flag? Roof pace car peels in. Justin with a great jump off the line. He leaves the next couple cars behind easily. Lepisto and Iamaki going to have to sort it out between themselves as they come down to Kops. Timu Toika. A number of them running wide off the first corner as we've got a big accident happening. One of the cars launched into the air. Not sure who that is. I think that is Dave Walsh, but let's go to the Audi start.
It was a pretty hectic start back here for these guys too. Double wide as we had McCullough off there, and now they're just barely starting to get single file, but a very hectic 2-wide start back here for these guys as well.
Well, that wasn't the clean start I'm sure the pack was looking for in the Nissans, but the GTP cars are already working their way into Vale as we watch those Audis head up to the Hanger Straight. In fact, there's was a close battle between Iamaki and Toika, but Toika outbraked himself into Vale. And as they come out of club, you can see the distance that Bushfink car has lost on the number 5. Very quickly, these cars getting through the first lap. They're nearly done with it already. Oh, and something seems to have happened to Olenek here. I think, he had a run-in down into the Abbey chicane with Christine O'Reilly. This is the replay. Just a little bit too hot into the corner. Christine tried to give him space, and poor Rob found himself tipping Christine around. Both of them get going once again, but towards the back of the pack.
It's such a tough part of the track there, as you see everyone trying to be aggressive here early, trying to make up as much ground as possible, and just a little split second late on the brakes, and something like that's so easy to happen.
Oh, and for Walsh, he spun around and then got whacked by, I'm not sure who that pink car was. Looks like that was Carl Kask, which explains why he is so far down the order and actually in the pits right now. Let's watch from on board as he acts like a snow shovel here in the middle of December. Wow. And he had to avoid Olenek something fierce there. Lightning fast reflexes, but it took him right into the path of the spinning car. Well, that has got to be disappointing for Kask. Hopefully he can get back out there. You can see our leaders starting to separate themselves slightly. Albrecht leads Lepisto, leads Iamaki. Let's check in on the Audi class, though. We haven't looked at them in a while, and it's a lot closer between the top four. Hagner leads Thompson, leads Lake, leads Hall.
Yeah, Philip Lake and Jamie Hall back there. You see them with those dirty torque paint schemes on there. Might be working together, and I have been noticing Phil Lake got a little sideways a couple times in the lap before. Jamie Hall gave him more than enough room to recover himself and regroup, and that teammate or that team alliance that they've got going there definitely going to help them if they are going to try to chase down Thompson and Hagner right now.
Absolutely. I'm sure they're willing to work together a little bit here when they know they can probably do something with these top two, but when it comes down to the win, I can almost guarantee you that they will be willing to fight each other. But wow, these top four are just a train of cars right now. Joni Hagner, who typically tends to leave the field in the dust, doesn't seem to be able to do that today. Riley Thompson finds himself hot on his heels.
Hey, Thompson just not letting him go. Thompson's been a lot faster through a couple of the turns. It'd be interesting to see how they get through Maggotts and Beckett's here, because if you get a big run out of that and onto the hanger straight, I mean, that's a great place to close in on someone going down into Stowe. And it looks pretty good for both of them, but not overwhelmingly one way or another. So that's kind of what Thompson is looking for. He just doesn't want Hagner to get away here, wants to keep him reeled in close.
He's doing that. Certainly didn't get a good run down the hanger straight here. But as they break now for Stowe, all of them staying about equidistant apart. Riley Thompson, known as something of a young phenom out here. And I think we've got a battle going on farther down in this class. Tanner McCullough and Dave Peterson duking it out. Look at all these cars close together. That's Mantivada in there, Fort and Koivisto. As well up at the front of the train is Stefan. Oh, and it switches back once again as Dave Peterson overtakes Albertinelli.
On the very first lap, even before they had reached the start-finish line, Tanner McCullough was completely off the track. I believe all four wheels were off the ground at one point or another. And so he's really he's done a great job staying composed up here in the top 10 of this class, running up here in 11th right now, actually.
And look at all the action we got. This is Albertinelli and Peterson still going at it. Peterson Albertinelli and McCullough. McCullough now switching to the outside in the blue machine of Luffield. Inside going to Albertinelli as it's a drag race up towards Woodcote. And they hit the front stretch, but the outside line just doesn't offer enough grip for McCullough, and he has to give up the ghost. Oh, Stephen Warcup seems to have found trouble. I think turbo lag looks like it's caught another victim here, Nick.
Yeah, we see that all the time in the Nissans and Warcup now. Looks like just trying to get it slowed down and compressed through there, and a little mixture of turbo lag and the spinning of the tires and just not being able to find enough traction there. So easy to do in these older Nissan GTP cars, and yeah, claimed another victim there in Stephen Warcup.
Advanced for the time, but boy, are these brute force machines regardless. Continues on, and 13th does the number 4 car. Not missing much up at the top of the GTP since we left them. It's still Albrecht, Lepisto, Iamaki in the same order, and still about a second to a second and a half apart from each other.
back in the Audis up front, it looks like Thompson and Hagner have really separated themselves from Jamie Hall and Phil Lake, and Jamie Hall actually has gotten around Phil Lake for 3rd place now. And that battle that they've had back there for P3 has caused Thompson and Hagner to get away. They're still very close up front, but big gap now from 2nd to 3rd.
You see the sun has gone behind a cloud, lowering the track temperature. It's already a pretty cool day out here. It's 72 degrees, so relatively grippy. Good news for these drivers, since I'm sure they'd love it around this track as Thompson continues to hound Joni Hagner. Not really quite attacking yet, as you were talking about earlier, just holding behind him. Maybe focused more ahead than behind, thankfully, because of Hall and Lake falling back as far as they have. And I think we had a change to the lead in the Nissans. Albrecht way off course in Cops. Oh, and you know what? This was from traffic.
Yeah.
Coming into play very, very early. This was Javier Lago. And
you know, call.
Yeah, you know what? He cut the course. You could see how much of Woodcote that he cut off there. You cannot go inside that white line.
Yeah, as we go on board now, I went over to switch just briefly because I wanted to see how close they were to catching traffic. And when I switched over, they were very close because he was right on the tail end there. And then he did cut that course, and that caused him to have to slow down, give up that lead, it looks like.
Well, he's back in the lead already. Since we were looking at that replay, I didn't even get to see. I was so focused on watching those replays. It's somewhere Justin has slipped right on by. This traffic already causing a little bit of chaos around here. Now, what this has done is Lepisto back in 3rd has suddenly been caught by Timu Toika as well. They work their way into the technical section. This is where the traffic can be a little bit more of a pain, as Toika just found out, trying to go around the outside of Lori there. But our leaders as well, catching the likes of Albert Tonelli and Stefan Schlacker.
I think Stefan Schlacker was one of those drivers that had a lot of trouble early in this race. He started 28th overall, and he fell back all the way to the end of the field.
Sorry, huge contact between Iamaki and multiple of the Audis. He was trying to slip up the inside into Cops. 15 minutes into this race, and we've had our first, well, I guess second major incident if you consider the start wreck that we saw. He saw the leader slide through, and, you know, I thought I'm guessing he thinks monkey see, monkey do.
Looks like Stefan there to shut the door when he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, well, you know, I kind of, I don't blame Stefan in this situation, or yeah, no, Peterson, you're right. I think both of them wouldn't have expected a Nissan to come that late. I kind of put that on the Nissan, that was just way too ambitious.
Just trying to keep Justin Albrecht in tow, but it definitely would have been safer there to, you know, give Albrecht a couple of seconds of advantage over him there. Sometimes it's just, we have a long race here today, and we're still 29 minutes left in this thing. So yeah, Iamaki there definitely probably could have gone a little more conservatively through there.
Well, he continues in 10th, but with a lot of damage now.
Yeah.
And a huge hill to climb. Something to be said for survival instincts in this series, that's for sure. And our leaders now coming up on our leaders in the GTOs as they both have to take to off track. They're both able to continue, but this is Phil Lake and Jamie Hall, who are trying to have their own side-by-side battle as Timu Toika slips around them through Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, and they caught Riley Thompson there at an awkward spot as well. These two leaders in the Nissans. Bunches them up real tight.
Well, actually, I'd say that, and yeah, it does. The Nissans, I was looking at the Audis, side-by-side battle through Stowe. Justin Albrecht on this second time of defense here in this race. This Anti Lepisto going the long way around into Vale, but it switches back in club. Beautiful move. as he makes it stick. Down towards Abbey. Not going to be another chance for Albrecht to be able to come back at him, Nick.
Yeah, no, Albrecht is going to have to just wait his time here like he did before. He quickly got back into the lead earlier when we saw him make a mistake, so I'm sure he's aware of that and I'm sure Antti Lepisto is also aware of that, though, and he's going to have to drive a bit more aggressively here to keep this lead.
Fans of Ardo Iamaki, bad news. His damage was bad enough that he had to come into the pits, and he is not retired yet, but he's been in there for a while now getting those repairs. We'll see if he decides to come back out onto the track. So with all this happening, we haven't checked in the mid-pack of the Audis since pretty much the start of the race. We got a good battle for ninth between Stefan and, well, Stefan, Manach, Stefan, and Stefan Schlacker. Schlacker with a nice move to the inside through Woodcote to take that position away.
All those Nissans coming through there to break up the battle, and all of those Nissans earlier up in the lead, they had all of the battling amongst the Audis really bunched them up. I'm a little surprised it didn't reverse as well. The Audis up front, Joni Hagner and Riley Thompson, still pretty much the same gap apart, maybe even a little bit more by a couple yards there, but Hagner still with a solid lead over Riley Thompson up front in the Audis. Nothing much has changed there with all of the Nissans going through.
And I get the feeling that Thompson doesn't want to let Hagner get away, because we've seen in the past where Hagner has had just crushing victories over the rest of the field. And I think Thompson is going to be well aware of that, maybe keeping that gap down as best he can. The question is, how much does he want to risk the car when traffic starts to want to come through? We'll find out in a minute, since we've got more of our GTPs trying to come through that are in a battle of their own, including Krejcik and Sikora.
Yeah, I'm sure they're up front. Thompson and Hagner are looking in the mirror, wanting these guys to get that sorted out here, all of those Nissans, and just casually go through single file. But it's a good thing they're going to catch them where they're going to, and not through Priory and Brooklands and Luffield.
Yeah, hopefully they're going to catch them before they get... Yeah, big hold up there for Krejcik, and that's going to offer an opportunity for Radek, as they just managed to get by Thompson in time. But they do catch them in a bad spot. This is Maggots and Beckett's, exactly where I was hoping they wouldn't do it. Joni Hagner has to take evasive action to keep from getting hit by Sikora. That does cost him some time.
And it really hurt Clayton McLeod as well, who was right on their tail, and now he's a little further back. He's going to be able to close in on them again, but for a moment there, it did hurt him as well.
It amazes me how well these drivers just drive on their toes and keep aware of everything happening around them. More of these cars coming through now. Fabian Jungbluth, who was in a battle with Tommy Toe, manages to overtake him with a little bit of help from the Audis.
Looks like Fabian Gerber just had a bit of a single car incident. He just went off the track there for us for a moment. He was running P4 in the Nissans.
Ooh, well, that's a lot of positions lost, because he's all the way down to 10th now.
Yeah.
That must have been a major off.
Gerber.
Oh, excuse me. Gerber's still just looking at Youngbluth. Two Fabians out there. My apologies. Gerber is still in 4th, so not as dramatic as we thought. Watching Justin Albrecht now, keeping it within about a second of Lepisto. Looking very similar, these two battles between the lead and GTP and GTO. We're already halfway through this race, though. You talk about drivers kind of biding their time, Nick. At what point do you say it's go time?
Well, I mean, especially in the Audis, I've been watching Riley Thompson slide around a couple of corners. He's been really aggressively driving that thing to try to catch Joni Hagner and keep him in tow, but it seems like it's hurting Riley Thompson in the long run, because the gap just keeps getting slightly and slightly bigger. So, I mean, a couple of these drivers, I think, just having to deal with the sheer speed of the people ahead of them, especially you look in the Nissans. Justin Albrecht quickly recovered earlier in this race from an incident, took back the lead, but now he's struggling to keep up with Antti Lepisto.
Do you think that maybe Thompson is struggling a bit? Because you said he was sliding around. If he's struggling a bit due to the tires, maybe did he wear them out maybe?
Definitely possible. We had quite the hectic start, and everyone was giving it their all, but would have imagined him to be on the same set of the same duration of tire as Phil Lake and Jamie Hall, and they seem to be keeping a solid pace away. They're not falling back severely, so it's hard to tell. I mean, Joni Hagner shouldn't have too much better tires right now.
We'll have to keep an eye on it. Hopefully we'll get to talk to Riley, see what he thinks about his struggle to keep up with Hagner. Oh, speaking of a slide, if we could go back behind them, might need a replay of Jamie Hall heading through Brooklands, because that car was using its four-wheel drive to quite good effect. We're going to see it out of Priory. Ooh, just dipped a wheel in the grass. Nice catch on his part.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of different drivers here as we go on board with him through there. I've seen a lot of different drivers, especially in the Audis, really struggle through there. It's a very flat part of the track, and you're trying to get all the speed you possibly can with not much traction through there.
Love that onboard, seeing him cross him up to catch the car. Smooth as you like, and he continues on. Now, that battle between Albrecht and Lepisto has closed in slightly, but more than that, the battle between Albrecht and Toika is now on. Timu, who inherited that third place from Iamaki, finds himself hot on the heels of the number 11. Oh, and Villi Rolla seems to be struggling now. Oh, as he comes back and he gets hit by the car of Javier Lago. Gotta check that F3 box. This was all on his own to start. Oh, wow, that snapped on him. And then there you see the second hit.
Doesn't look like he made too severe of contact there. He doesn't seem to be hurting him too much, but still, obviously a huge loss of track position and time there for Ruola.
You mentioned the time difference in these two cars, and that's the other thing that amazes me about these drivers is they seem to switch back and forth between the Audi and the Nissan often. We've seen a number of drivers do both. As we watch Dennis Neidhard now in the Audis fighting for this sixth spot. But the different skills needed between these cars, and these drivers just kind of seem to switch back and forth on a whim.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking earlier about how many of these drivers in Kamel GT love to experiment with different cars. We've seen them race in the old Formula One cars. We've seen them race in Lotus 49. We've seen them race in Oval Series in the NASCAR trucks as well. These drivers so talented in Kamel GT, they're able to switch cars back and forth, and it doesn't seem to phase them.
Neidhard still sandwiched between Lucanos and Arnozzi. Arnozzi doesn't seem to be able to move forward as easily as we saw in the last race. Oh, and Lepisto and Albrecht were having a little bit of a fight, and actually Lepisto's off track right now trying to gather the car up. He loses the position, actually gets turned around by Manak Stefan. He's still in third as Gerber is a long ways behind, but that was a hard hit to the rear of the car.
Yeah, much heavier contact than we just saw from the incident with Villi Rolla here with Lepisto when he came back on track. That was a big hit to the rear there.
Just got caught up by traffic, was trying to hold back Albrecht, and it looked like he was caught out when they turned into Maggots and Beckett's. Just didn't expect him to be at the apex there. And he's hurting. He is limping because Fabian Gerber has already caught and passed him from a long ways back.
Yeah, if you look at the rear end there on Antti Lepisto's car, the number 2 car there, it's quite a bit of rear end damage. These cars are so reliant on aerodynamics.
So if I was Teemu Toika, I would be eyeing Albrecht with a bit of caution, because Albrecht, despite losing the lead here, he's had Iamaki fall by the wayside. That's one fin. Now he's had Lepisto fall by the wayside. That's 2 fins. If Teemu Toika has something happen to him, I think he's firmly cursed when Finnish people try to pass him. Fabian Gerber might be our best hope to try to chase him down. Already Toika on the back of Justin Albrecht as we watch the orange and black machine of the Bushfink driver try to catch the Dirty Torque driver. A lot of traffic up in front of them, though. This is Arnozi, Neidhart, and O'Reilly, along with Mukanos. Oh, gets balked by Neidhart, sneaks by. Toika follows him through. Traffic almost forcing them to take the same lane as spinning off. That is the car of Christine O'Reilly. Didn't hit anything, just gets going. She's laps down.
Oh, almost an opportunity there for Toika to make a move on Albrecht, but just no room for that to happen.
Behind him, big battle going on between Arnozi and Neidhart, though. That really brought those two together. And I think Arnozi's going to come out on top. Oh, but Neidhart's not going to sit still as they go 3 wide through Priory and come out the other side. Dennis still going at it down into Brooklyn. Breaks deep. Christine's going to have to get past them again for the second time here in the same lap. Nobody willing to give up as they go 3 wide for the second time, and they make contact, a light brush with Christine. Dennis still manages to get away with it, but Milan Arnozi claims 6th place in the GTO class.
And Christina O'Reilly already had a bit of right side damage on that car, and it made it a little bit worse there, that contact there.
So they've still got yet more cars trying to come through. That's Fabian Gerber, 3rd place driver in the GTO class. And he's actually, well, Antti Lepisto's caught him because of this traffic, as Lepisto has to slow up going through Maggots and Beckett's, but no harm, no foul as he gets by Arnozi.
Albrecht is spinning.
Our leader has lost it once again. This is the second time he's lost the lead.
He's trying to get around Phil Lake, and this spin much more severe than the one before. It's going to be hard to come back from this one. Don't think he got any damage, but a big loss of ground there for him.
Wow, great catch by his by Justin. Just too much curb on the inside. You could see the car just bounce as soon as he hits it. Toika just sneaks by, avoids the Finnish curse. So that makes Fat Teemu our new leader.
As Teemu currently getting around the 2 Audi leaders, still Riley Thompson and Joni Hagner, still not too far apart from each other for the lead in the Audis.
Yep, they're going to have Teemu sneak on through. Riley Thompson giving chase. And credit to Riley. He is keeping Joni honest, because if Joni makes a mistake in traffic, on track, that lead is gone.
And another thing, Riley Thompson, I'm sure he's been taking notes this entire race. He's been sitting there for about 26 minutes so far of this race. He knows Joni Hagner's racing line through the track right now to a T. All of his braking points, I'm sure he's got just about memorized at this point, because he's been back there watching him this entire race. When it comes time for the last lap, if Riley Thompson can reel him in just a little bit more, that's definitely going to be a big advantage for Thompson.
Poor Clayton McLeod has had a horrible incident. I think it was almost a minute ago at this point. As you see him still limping back to the pits. He ran into Andrea Albertinelli, who spun at the Abbey chicane. This is him heading out of club now. You're going to see it happen just up here as we ride on board. You'll see the Audi spin. And then Secora as well clips Albertinelli after Clayton does. Oh, yeah, that'll do it for the suspension.
And back live, we almost had a change for the lead in the Audis, because Riley Thompson has caught the leader, Joni Hagner. A couple of Nissans went by, and they are still side by side right now.
He is on the gearbox of the Finn. Hagner going to have to work a little bit harder now as they come up to Copse. Let's see what Thompson's got for him here. It's one thing to catch a driver, Nick. It's another to pass him.
Yeah, absolutely. Thompson looked on the inside of Hagner multiple times the lap before. They always got interrupted by a Nissan, as they saw just now Antilapisto going by. But it looks like next person behind them is Tobias Gerber. It all depends on where they catch him, because that even just one Nissan catching these guys has become a huge factor in Thompson catching Hagner.
And only 12 minutes left to go on the clock. He's catching them, but Gerber, braking late. Riley Thompson looking to see if he can get something on Hagner, but it doesn't quite work. Now Gerber is working his way past Thompson and splits them momentarily. Tobias in an Audi sandwich, waiting patiently. Let's see if he can out-accelerate Hagner coming off of Club, and now he's going to let them go, but the damage has been done. Look at the gap that Thompson has lost.
Tobias Gerber was really patient through there, getting by Joni Hagner, and that really ended up hurting Riley Thompson. I'm sure Tobias Gerber, just trying to be safe and calm through there, doesn't want to interrupt the battling too much, and definitely doesn't want to take one of them out should he have some unexpected turbo lag or anything through there. So more traffic though behind the Audi leaders, so I'm sure we haven't seen the last of this battle.
Well, as that's happening, we had an incident with Martin Krejcik, and I'm trying to figure out which corner this was in. I think he spun off mostly by himself into the gravel. Let's see, I think we're trying to dig this one up. This is coming up to Vale. Working his way through Club. Maybe this happened in Abbey, I'm thinking. Yeah, this looks like it happened in Abbey. It's got a little bit of traffic in the form of Neidhart, and then that's Arnozzi ahead of him. So just lose it on... Oh, he's trying to stay out of Arnozzi, who went wide. Watching from on board. Boy, this will give a good indication of the closing speeds of these cars. Woohoo! Well, he lives to fight another day. Just lost quite a bit of time in that exchange. So, your leaders in each of the classes here, now as we get under 10 minutes, Timo Toika up at the front of the GTPs with a good gap over Justin Albrecht. Joni Hagner leading much less of a gap over Riley Thompson as they go by a car off track. That was Don Peak, actually, that they just went by. Don currently running 17th in class in the Audis. That's one of our Dirty Torque drivers, Phil Lake, currently holding down third. Who's actually dropped his teammate Jamie Hall by quite a few seconds, I should point out. Those two usually are attached at the hip a lot of races we've seen. Seems like traffic has pulled them apart somewhat. Meanwhile, got a bit of a battle for 10th place here. Remember Martin Krejcik losing all that time? Well, Tommy Toes caught up to him. And how about the climbing? Rob Olenek, and what is going on here with the Audis up ahead of him? And Warcup has spun off. He's just handed over positions, more of them exchanging hands, as it looks like Tommy Toe is going to get by Krejcik, and now Olenek as well. So it's one step forwards for Martin, two steps backwards. And they're coming through the Audi leaders now. That's Riley Thompson that they've split. Remember, Olenek trying to come back from a big problem early on. He's hit the top 10. Toe looks doable, but then Sakura is a little farther up the road. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get him in time.
This gaggle through here has really split up the Audi leaders. Thompson was right back to his bumper, and Joni Hagner has a huge gap now. Definitely the biggest we've seen all race over Riley Thompson.
Yeah, it is 3.3 seconds between them. We've seen how quickly that can vanish, though. We've seen how dangerous it can be. Oh, they've got a very slow Nissan to the inside. This is Christine O'Reilly, and just like that, Hagner actually did get held up. So some of that gap has gone away.
Yeah, it looks like only about 0.2 of a second of that 3-second gap has gone away. Now it is about exactly 3 seconds, and it was about 3.3. So little things like that definitely going to help Riley Thompson. But with only 7 minutes left in this race, Thompson's really got to get on the loud pedal.
Oh, and I said he wouldn't catch Sakura. I made a liar because Roddick just had an off coming through Chapel. He gets it going once again. Let's see. Is this a lone car incident?
I believe it is.
Just
yeah.
Maybe too much on the power. The car just looked like it suddenly came around.
Looks like he already had a fair bit of damage, so I'm sure that combined with a turbo lag just didn't quite help Radek Sakura there. One of those incidents.
Yep, and Rob Olenek. Oh, Billy Roll has had problems too. This was into Priory, out of bridge. Ooh, he actually made contact with Hideki Koivisto. This was one of our AM Championship contenders. Oh no, he didn't have contact. Narrowly avoided him.
Yeah, I think he was trying to last desperate attempt to avoid that contact with Koivisto. Looked like he was trying to get on the brakes last second, and that little bobble of the acceleration just sent him spinning. Tough race for Billy Rolla. We've seen him go up and down through the field a couple of times now, and it seems like every time he gets back up into a position he likes, something like this happens and he falls right back down.
Now, I've been keeping half an eye on Olenek because he's right behind Tommy Toe. And the number 26 has been holding him off, but I would think typically we're used to seeing Rob be faster than this, running up towards the front, especially in the Nissans. It makes me wonder if he's got a little bit of damage or something that's hurting him in certain parts of the circuit. And in typical British fashion, it's been pretty cloudy out here today. The sun has not seemed to come out very much. I guess iRacing makes it as realistic as possible. Down towards Abbey once more. You can see Toe there in the foreground being chased by Olenek. He's running out of time to do this. It's 4.5 minutes left to go, and it's in 8th place up for grabs. Not missing anything down in the Audi class. It is still over 3 seconds for the lead. Most everyone behind them pretty spread apart. Right on board with Olenek, hitting the pit straight once again, coming up on yet more traffic. This is the car of Lucas Fort, just going to pull out of the way, let them through.
Look at how big that gap between him and Tommy Toe gets so quickly.
Yeah, it just to me says that nothing is safe here in the Kamel GT series. As soon as you've got a gap or as soon as you're close, that can go away so fast. Time really does fly. And hopefully the drivers are having fun out here. Compared to most Kamel races, this is, I would put it at somewhat calm. Used to seeing a lot more craziness.
Yeah, I'm sure part of that is all of these drivers relieved to not be at Summit Point anymore after last week and their craziness they had there.
You don't know how good you have it until you see how bad it can get, I guess, right? As we watch Milan Arnozzi now trying to hold off Dennis Neidhart. These two have been together for much of this race. This is still a battle for 6 between them. We ride on board with Neidhart. Arnozzi, the purple and black machine, up ahead. Let's stay with this battle, but wanted to report I was keeping an eye on Justin Albrecht and Fabian Gerber, because Gerber was closing on Albrecht for P2 in the GTPs, but he's dropped off now, so not worth going over to them. Neidhart using traffic well here to close in on Arnozzi down into Vale. But I think we've got 2 laps to go now.
Another interesting development I've been watching is Riley Thompson not pulling in on Joni Hagner anymore. Now he's trying to defend Phil Lake, who has caught him for 2nd place.
Ooh. Well then, Riley Thompson now put on the back foot. Have to say, though, been a great race for the number 12. Let's see what he can do when he's put under pressure here, as Phil Lake follows him with 2 laps to go.
Big slide there out of Thompson. So yeah, like we've said, I'm sure tires at this point just beaten up, especially on Thompson, who was trying to chase down Joni Hagner so aggressively. I can't be helping him right now, defending Phil Lake.
Oh, and something happened to Fabian Gerber, who was chasing Albrecht. Now he hasn't lost position. Lepisto was a ways behind, and this was a single car incident. He was going by Jamie Hall.
Wow, just rear end came out from under him.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it gave up the ghost. It said, I am not giving you any more traction. You're on your own. But he continues in 3rd with Lepisto close behind. What a climb back for Lepisto. Too bad Iamaki could not join him. Sure, Ante would have loved to have had something better than a 4th, potentially a 3rd, as he started on the front row. White flag comes out for a driver who started all the way back in 5th position, Teemu Toika. He won in the off-season at Sebring. I think we are looking at another win coming his way. So for all the Fat Teemu fans, as we had a car off, I think that was Radek Sakura getting back going again, there you see. But all the Fat Teemu fans, get your pennants ready. Get your foam fingers, as all he has to do is safely navigate less than a single lap. Meanwhile, Gerber and Lepisto now very, very close. Gerber's got to be kicking himself for making that mistake. He pulls a great exit out of Copse. Lepisto with not much of an answer for him now as they head down to the Maggots and Beckett's. Unfortunately, I think the damage on Lepisto is making it very hard for him to gain on Fabian. Current champion might yet still be safe in this podium position. Teemu Toika, the only Finn to be able to get successfully past Justin Albrecht today. He comes through Priory, now through Brooklands, as the car of Michael Haynes just takes completely off the track to let him through. Luffield, and then one more to go. They've been calling him Fit Teemu at times here, and I think it's becoming more and more apt, as number 13 is lucky today and takes the win here at Silverstone. Albrecht is going to get 2nd, and Joni Hagner in the Audis, the GTO class, has held that gap. It might be a little bit too soon to hot dog like that, Joni. You do still only have a 2.5-second lead. But he's going to take the win. It's a double finish victory here today at Silverstone. Thompson with a 2nd place. Lake taking 3rd. Fabian Gerber did hold on to third in the Audi class as well. Meanwhile, this battle between Neidhart and Arnozzi still going hard. Oh, all the way back to the rear car and gave him a touch. That hurt his exit. That might have been a bad move. Arnozzi going to take 6th. Any other battles? I think that's everybody, actually. Most everyone should have finished the race by now. So with that, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Silverstone. We just watched round 2 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and in the end, Teemu Toika took another one. He seems to be getting better and better every time we turn around, from 5th to 1st. Justin Albrecht, who was our pole sitter, had to settle for 2nd place. And then Fabian Gerber, a good climb for him as well, from 8th to 3rd. Antti Lapisto started on the front row, but is probably ruining what could have been. He finishes 4th, with Tobias Gerber rounding out top 5. Fabian Jungbluth finishes in 6th with Vili Ruola coming over from the GTOs to the GTPs and getting a nice 7th. Tommy Toe finishes in 8th, having started 15th. Wow, what a good job from him. Rob Olenek started 9th, finished 9th. Can't complain about that. Martin Krejcik gets a 10th today with Stephen Warkup taking 11th. Bronislav Robanek finishes in 12th with Carlos Fonseca 13th, and Radek Sokorda finishing 14th, first car lap down in the GTPs. Ryan Lang finishes in 15th, Christine O'Reilly 16th, and Ardo Iamaki 17th, along with a couple DNFs down at the bottom of the order with the GTP class. Nick?
Yes, over in the GTOs, Yoni Hagner, Riley Thompson, Phil Lake, your top three in that. We saw them battling, and then Jamie Hall going to be 4th place. Nicholas Mukanos moved up 7 spots today from 29th to 22nd. Great job by him as well. Milan Arnozzi holding off Dennis Neinhardt the entire race. Great battle for them, 23rd and 24th overall. Tanner McCullough and Stefan Schlacker, 2 drivers that made great recoveries after a first lap incident. Manak Stefan going to finish 27th or 10th overall in the Audis. Lori Minitavara, Matteo Jete, Lucas Fort, Javier Lago, Donald Peak. We saw those all run into some trouble. Then a couple of cars further back. Paul Ferrer, Michael Haynes, Hideki Koivisto, Andrea Albertinelli, who started very well, ran into some early trouble. He's going to wind up 36th overall. Dave Peterson and Laurent Perez all had problems here in the Audis.
And with that, we've got our winner ready to talk to us. Teemu Toika has joined us and is ready to tell us how he managed to go from 5th to 1st. Teemu, it seemed like a lot of the drivers around you just kept falling victim to errors, and you weren't. Teemu, do you have a copy? Teemu might still be celebrating this victory. I think I would be too, having started all the way down in 5th position. We'll try one more time. Teemu Toika, do you got a copy? That looks like Teemu is not here quite yet, so we'll come back to him in a little bit. In the meantime, Nick has caught up with our winner over in the GTOs. Joni Hagner, ready to talk to him.
Absolutely. Joni Hagner, what a race you went through there. Holding off Riley Thompson the entire time, and then a little bit of a break at the end. How did that go for you?
Well, at the start, I tried to take a bit carefully and save a bit of tire for the end. So, not pushing like 101%, but when the Nissans came past me first time, my internet problem started. It was pretty horrible because everyone was blinking in my screen.
Wow, well, you made it seem like that was not the case. It was very impressive to deal with that and still put up the performance you did. So tell me more about the tires. We were wondering if that's why Riley just couldn't quite catch you there at the end, was maybe just a little bit of tire wear, being too aggressive at the beginning, and then battling with the Nissans.
Yeah, it's this track goes, I don't know, it's warm up the tires quite a lot. It doesn't help when you are in the draft because the car starts to push a bit. So, well, yeah.
All right. Well, you've had an amazing start to the season, Joni, and how are you feeling going into Sonoma next week? 3 very different tracks to start the season.
Well, it's a good place to practice drifting.
All right. Let's...
Yeah, it's a bit bad multi-class track, but it's really fun in Audi.
Absolutely. It will be very fun to watch. That was Joni Hagner, your winner in the GTOs today.
And I think we've got our winner in the GTP class here with us now. Teemu, you got your mic working?
10-4, buddy.
All right, there is Teemu. Now, it looked like a lot of your victory today was just simply staying out of trouble while nobody else could seem to.
Yeah, I wasn't confident in my pace in the practice earlier, and I was just trying to drive my own race, and it seemed like this week there was enough for the victory. It was a really tough race with the lappers sometimes, but that's Kamel sometimes.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but it seems you're the only Finn who is ever able to successfully stay ahead of Justin. 2 of your fellow countrymen, Iamaki and Lepisto, both fell by the wayside pretty quickly once they managed to pass him, or at least attempt to pass him.
Yeah, I think Justin just got a bit loose there in the after the Hagner Straits, and I was just I saw that he was like several seconds behind, and I was just trying to take it easy and not do any mistakes, and because I know from the from experience that the Nissan can snap like that. And I was just trying to get on power easily and braking easily so I don't lock up. And yeah, that was enough for the victory.
Yeah, and talk about the grip out there, because we noticed it was relatively cool. Does that sometimes make it harder? Does it make the car snappier, like you said?
I'm not sure if anybody else has this, but I was struggling with the understeer a lot of the time, especially in the first lap. But I somehow managed to recover from that, and in the middle of the race, it started to like balance out a bit, and then I was able to hit comfortable laps, and at high speed. But other than that, it's just the turbo lag hitting in, or the turbo kicking in, that can surprise you sometimes.
I can only imagine what it's like to try to deal with that. Well, congratulations on the victory. You made it look as smooth as always.
Yeah, thank you.
That was our winner, Teemu Toika. Second place over in the GTO class has joined us as well. Riley Thompson is here to talk to Nick.
Absolutely. Caught up with Riley Thompson, second place finisher today in the Audi in the GTO class. And Riley, talk about you had a great view of Joni Hagner. I'm sure you would have liked to see him in your mirror instead of out your windshield, though, for the entire race.
Yeah, it was awesome to be able to battle with him. When I first came into the series, here he was running by like 10 seconds every race, it seemed. So it's pretty awesome to even be able to see him in my windshield besides him lapping me now.
Yeah, so talk about, we were wondering if maybe the tires, especially on your number 12 there, burnt up just a little bit too soon. Did that play much of a factor, or was it really just all battling with the Nissans that caused Joni to just be able to pull away there at the end?
I think it was mainly just the Nissans. I felt like the tires were able to keep up with him.
All right, so holding off Phil Lake there at the end, which was also very impressive. Going into Sonoma next week, how are you feeling about that? All three of these tracks, like I told Joni, very different to start the season.
Honestly, can't wait. Love the curves through there, and hopefully we'll be able to have a good run.
All right, well, you had an awesome run today. Looking forward to the battle that everyone at the Kamel GT series, especially the Audis, put up next week at Sonoma.
Yep.
All right, that was Riley Thompson, second place in the GTOs. And finally, we have our third place finisher here in the GTPs, Fabian Gerber, ready to talk to us.
Hello.
Fabian, it looked like you gave yourself an extra little scare with just 2 laps to go.
Yes, that was very bad. When the car slides once, it goes away at that speed. It's the Nissan, at least. It was uncatchable. I was very worried afterwards, but it's didn't make me happy, of course. But I still got third home. That's the most important point.
So you mentioned the tires and whatnot. We asked Joni Hagner a little bit about them on the Audis. What about in the Nissan? Do you have to baby them a little bit, especially on a track like this that has so many twists and turns?
Yes, they hold the whole race. It's no problem. It's not like they go away from you, but it's once they're too hot, it's really difficult to cool them down again. And as I said, when you're in a slide, they get really hot, and then you slide off even faster. So you really have to watch not to get them too hot. I think that's the most important thing.
Well, you managed to hold Lepisto back and get yourself a third. It's still early in the season, so I'm assuming you're not even thinking championship. I'm guessing you're just kind of taking it a race at a time at this point.
Yes, sure. I think it's much more difficult. It's going to be much more difficult this season. The competition got much stronger than the last 2 seasons, especially than the first one, the two seasons ago. And Justin got faster, Teemu got faster. There's also Dave Walsh now, who's in the top 3 always. It's going to be really difficult season to win for everyone.
Yeah, I'd say you have a bit of a target on your back now, but still, you've got championships under your belt. I'm sure you'll have a chance at more. Congratulations on a podium today.
Thank you very much. Have a good one.
That was the number 3, Fabian Gerber, finishing in 3rd, having started all the way down in 8th. Qualifying not as good for him today, but the race treated him better. We're going to wrap up, though. A big thank you goes out to the Kamel GT community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, as well to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network for another season here on IESN. This is certainly an exciting one to watch. Make sure and subscribe to IESN if you enjoy this coverage. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware that we use on our broadcast. You can see them listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Nick, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget, head on over to our YouTube page as well so that you can subscribe to the GSRC. And if you hit that big red subscribe button, you will do just that. Next race, as we mentioned, we're going out to California. That'll be at Sonoma Long. That'll be Saturday, the 29th, and that'll be at noon Eastern. It'll be the last 2018 race here for the Kamel GT before we switch over to 2019, even though we're running 2019 Season 1. I know it's confusing, but we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.